And we're recording.
All right. Hi, Maria. We
Okay.
are going to do a series of assessments. The first assessment we are going to start with is a depression screening, and this is just a questionnaire about statements that best describe how you've been feeling during the past 2 weeks, including today. I'm going to give you a statement and then read off, and you're going to give me a number between 0 and 3 of how you're feeling, and I'll explain those as we go. Okay. The first statement is sadness. 0, you do not feel sad. 1, feel sad much of the time. 2, you're sad all of the time. Or 3, you're so sad or unhappy that you can't stand it.
2,
The next statement involves pessimism. Um, 0, I'm not discouraged about my future. 1, I feel more discouraged about my future than I used to be. 2, I do not expect things to work out for me. Or 3, I feel my future is hopeless and will only get worse.
2,
The next statements are about past failure. 0, I do not feel like a failure. 1, I failed more than I should have. 2, as I look back, I see a lot of failures. Or 3, I feel like I'm a total failure as a person.
3,
The next statements are in regard to loss of pleasure. 0, I get as much pleasure as I ever did from the things I enjoy. 1, I don't enjoy things as much as I used to. 2, I get very little pleasure from the things I used to enjoy. Or 3, I can't get any pleasure from the things I used to enjoy.
3,
The next statement is in regard to guilty feelings. 0, I don't feel particularly guilty. 1, I feel guilty over many things I've done or should have done. 2, I feel quite guilty most of the time. Or 3, I feel guilty all of the time.
3,
All right, we're going to move on to punishment feelings. 0, I don't feel like I am being punished. 1, I feel I may be punished. 2, I expect to be punished. Or 3, I feel like I am being punished.
3,
The next statements are about self dislike. 0, I feel the same about myself as ever. 1, I have lost self confidence in myself. 2, I am disappointed in myself. Or 3, I dislike myself.
3,
Okay, we're going to move on to self criticalness. 0, I don't criticize or blame myself more than usual. 1, I am more critical of myself than I used to be. 2, I criticize myself for all of my faults. 3, I blame myself for everything bad that happens.
3,
The next statements are in regard to suicidal thoughts or wishes. 0, I don't have any thoughts of killing myself. 1, I have thoughts of killing myself, but I would not carry them out. 2, I would like to kill myself. Or 3, I would like to kill myself if I had the chance.
1,
The next statements are about crying. 0, I don't cry any more than I used to. 1, I cry more than I used to. 2, I cry over every little thing. Or 3, I feel like crying, but I can't.
3,
We're going to move on to agitation. 0, I am no more restless or wound up than usual. 1, I feel more restless or wound up than usual. 2, I am so restless or agitated that it's hard to stay still. Or 3, I am so restless or agitated that I have to keep moving or doing something.
2,
Okay. loss of interest. I have not lost interest in other people or activities. I am less interested in other people or things than before. 2, I have lost most of my interest in other people or things. Or 3, it's hard to get interested in anything.
3.
Indecisiveness. I make decisions about as well as ever. 1, I find it more difficult to make decisions than usual. 2, I have much greater difficulty making decisions than I used to. Or 3, I have trouble making any decisions.
3.
Worthlessness. 0, I do not feel I am worthless. 1, I don't consider myself worthwhile and useful as I used to. 2, I feel more worthless as compared to other people. Or 3, I feel utterly worthless.
3.
Moving on to loss of energy. 0, I have as much energy as ever. 1, I have less energy than I used to have. 2, I don't have enough energy to do very much. Or 3, I don't have enough energy to do anything.
3.
Okay, we're going to move on to changes in your sleeping pattern. This one is slightly different than the other questions because it has a part A or part B. So if I say you sleep more than usual, that'd be 1A, or if you sleep less than usual, that'd be 1B. Okay. 0, I have not experienced any change in my sleeping pattern. 1A, I sleep somewhat more than usual. 1B, I sleep somewhat less than usual. 2A, I sleep a lot more than usual. 2B, I sleep a lot less than usual. 3A, I sleep most of the day. Or 3B, I wake up 1 to 2 hours early and can't get back to sleep.
3B.
Okay, irritability. 0, I am no more irritable than usual. 1, I am more irritable than usual. 2, I am much more irritable than usual. Or 3, I'm irritable all the time.
3.
Okay, changes in appetite. This question is similar to the sleeping pattern question. 0, I have not experienced any change in my appetite. 1A, my appetite is somewhat less than usual. 1B, my appetite is somewhat greater than usual. 2A, my appetite is much less than before. 2B, my appetite is much greater than usual. 3A, I have no appetite at all. Or 3B, I crave food all the time.
2A.
Next is about concentration. 0, I can concentrate as well as ever. 1, I can't concentrate as well as usual. 2, it's very hard to keep my mind on anything for very long. Or 3, I find I can't concentrate on anything.
3.
Tiredness or fatigue. 0, I am no more tired or fatigued than usual. 1, I get more tired or fatigued more easily than usual. 2, I am too tired or fatigued to do a lot of the things I used to do. Or 3, I'm too tired or fatigued to do most of the things I used to do.
2.
All right, last question is loss of interest in sex. 0, I have not noticed any recent change in my interest in sex. 1, I am less interested in sex than I used to be. 2, I am much less interested in sex now. Or 3, I have lost interest in sex completely.
3.
Okay. So that was all of the depression screening. And now we are going to move on to an anxiety screening. So for the anxiety screening, I want you to indicate how much you've been bothered by each symptom during the past week, including today. For each symptom, I'm going to ask if you feel it not at all, mildly, which is it did not bother you much, moderately, which is very unpleasant, but you could stand it, or severely, which means you could barely stand it.
Okay.
Okay, the first one is numbness or tingling,
Not at all.
feeling hot,
Mildly.
wobbliness in legs,
Mildly.
unable to relax,
Severely.
fear of the worst happening,
Severely.
dizzy or lightheadedness,
Not at all.
heart pounding or racing,
Not at all.
unsteady,
Mildly. No, moderately.
terrified,
Severely.
nervous,
Severely.
feelings of choking,
Not at all.
hands trembling,
Mildly.
shaky,
Moderately.
fear of losing control,
Severely.
difficulty breathing,
Not at all.
fear of dying,
Moderately.
scared,
Severely.
indigestion or discomfort in your abdomen,
Mildly.
faint,
Mildly.
face flushed,
Not at all.
and sweating not due to the heat.
Mildly.
Okay, that is going to conclude the anxiety screen.
All right, Maria, my name is Tishan, and we are going to go over this assessment together. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I'll give you numbers 1 through 4. I'll let you know what they mean, and the reason why we're doing this is because alcohol can affect your health, interfere with certain medications and treatments. So just remember this does remain confidential, so be as honest as you can with me, okay?
Okay.
Alrighty. Question number 1. How often do you have a drink containing alcohol? No, 0, never. Number 1, monthly or less. Number 2, 2 to 4 times a month. Number 3, 2 to 3 times a week. Or number 4, 4 or more times a week.
I would say 2.
2. Question number 2. How many drinks containing alcohol do you have on a typical day when you're drinking? 0 is 1 or 2 drinks. Number 1 is 3 or 4 drinks. Number 2 is 5 or 6 drinks. Number 3 is 7 to 9 drinks. Or 4 is 10 or more drinks.
2.
2. Okay. Then we have question number 3 is how often do you have 6 or more drinks on one occasion? 0 is never, 1 is less than monthly, 2 is monthly, 3 is weekly, and 4 is daily or almost daily.
1.
1.
Yes.
Question 4. How often during the last year have you found that you were not able to stop drinking once you had started? We have 0 is never, 1 is less than monthly, 2 is monthly, 3 is weekly, and 4 is daily or almost daily.
1.
1. All right, we have 5. Question number 5 is how often during the last year have you failed to do what was normally expected of you because of drinking? We have 0 is never, 1 is less than monthly, 3 is monthly, 4 is weekly, and 5 is daily or almost daily.
0.
0. I don't know why I said 5. I'm sorry. That was 4. 1, 2, 3. I don't know why I said that. But 0, so never.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Got mixed up for a second. All right, question number 6. How often during the last year have you needed a first drink in the morning to get yourself going after a heavy drinking session? We have 0 is never. We have 1 is less than monthly. We have 2, which is monthly. We have 3, which is weekly. And then we have 4, which is daily or almost daily.
Oh, never. So
Never?
0.
Okay. And feel free to answer either with the number or if you can say never or the other ones too, whatever you're comfortable with. All right, so we have number 8. How often during the last year have you been unable to remember what happened the night before because of your drinking? We have 0, which is never. We have 1, which is less than monthly. We have 2 is monthly. We have 3 is weekly, or 4 daily or almost daily.
You said like 8 or 7. There we are.
We are on number 8. Would you like me to repeat it for you?
Yes, please.
Yeah, no problem. So we have number 8, which is how often during the last year have you been unable to remember what happened the night before because of your drinking? We have 0, which is never. We have 1, which is less than monthly. We have 2 monthly, 3 weekly, or 4 daily or almost daily.
Less than monthly.
Less than monthly? Okay. We got 2 more questions. So, number 9, have you or someone else been injured because of your drinking? 0, no. 2, yes, but not in the last year. Or 4, yes, during the last year.
Yes, but not in the last year.
Okay. And last question is, has a relative, friend, doctor, or other healthcare worker been concerned about your drinking or suggested you cut down? There is 0, which is no. We have number 2, which is yes, but not in the last year. Or we have number 4, which is yes, during the last year.
No.
Nope. All right. Do you have any questions for me?
Um, no, would I get the results of this test?
You sure can get the results for these tests. Not today.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go back and do my feedback, but if that is something you want, we surely could.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Maria. This is the last one. It is a little longer. It's 57 questions, but the way that it's formatted, it should go pretty quickly. So just for this assessment, it's a assessment to gauge your anger. So however you feel, just do your automatic answer. Okay, whatever comes to your mind, just go ahead and say it. The first 15 questions are going to describe how you feel right now. Okay,
Okay.
so for number 1, that'll be not at all. Number 2 will indicate that you somewhat feel that way. Number 3 will be that you feel moderately that way. And number 4 will be you totally feel that way. You very much feel that way. So, for number 1, the statement is, I am furious.
4.
Okay. Number 2, I feel irritated.
4.
I feel angry.
4.
I feel like yelling at somebody.
Moderately so.
I feel like breaking things.
Moderately so.
I am mad.
Very much so.
I feel like banging on the table.
Somewhat.
I feel like hitting someone.
Moderately so.
I feel like swearing.
Somewhat.
I feel annoyed.
Moderately so.
I feel like kicking somebody.
Somewhat.
I feel like cursing out loud.
Somewhat.
I feel like screaming.
Moderately so.
I feel like pounding somebody.
Somewhat.
I feel like shouting out loud.
Somewhat.
All right, that was the first 15 questions. Thank you. We'll move on to part 2. So this is just to describe how you generally feel on a day-to-day basis. And it goes, number 1 is almost never. Number 2 is sometimes. Number 3 is often. And number 4 is almost always. You ready?
Yes, I am.
All right. I am quick-tempered.
Often.
Okay. I have a fiery temper.
Sometimes.
I am a hot-headed person.
Sometimes.
I get angry when I'm slowed down by others' mistakes.
Often.
I feel annoyed when I am not given recognition for doing good work.
Almost always.
I fly off the handle.
Sometimes.
When I get mad, I say nasty things.
Sometimes.
It makes me furious when I am criticized in front of others.
Almost always.
When I get frustrated, I feel like hitting someone.
Sometimes.
I feel infuriated when I do a good job and get a poor evaluation.
Sometimes.
Right. Thank you. That was part 2. Now we're moving on to part 3, and this will be how you generally react or behave when you're angry or furious. So this is after you get triggered or set off by an event. It'll be the same format. Number 1, almost never. Number 2, sometimes. Number 3, often. Number 4, almost always. All right, this is the last part. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. I control my temper.
Sometimes.
I express my anger.
Often.
I take a deep breath and relax.
Sometimes.
I keep things in.
Often.
I am patient with others.
Sometimes.
If someone annoys me, I'm apt to tell him or her how I feel.
Sometimes.
I try to calm myself as soon as possible.
Almost never.
I pout or sulk.
Often.
I control my urge to express my angry feelings.
Sometimes.
I lose my temper.
Often.
I try to simmer down.
Sometimes.
I withdraw from people.
Almost always.
I keep my cool.
Sometimes.
I make sarcastic remarks to others.
Almost always.
I try to soothe my angry feelings.
Sometimes.
I boil inside, but I don't show it.
Sometimes.
I control my behavior.
Sometimes.
I do things like slam doors.
Almost always.
I endeavor to become calm again.
Sometimes.
I tend to harbor grudges that I don't tell anyone about.
Sometimes.
I can stop myself from losing my temper.
Sometimes.
I argue with others.
Often.
I reduce my anger as soon as possible.
Almost never.
I am secretly quite critical of others.
Sometimes.
I try to be tolerant and understanding.
Often.
I strike out at whatever infuriates me.
Sometimes.
I do something relaxing to calm down.
Sometimes.
I am angrier than I'm willing to admit.
Often.
I control my angry feelings.
Sometimes.
I say nasty things.
Sometimes.
I try to relax.
Almost like is it 0? Yeah. No, 1. Sorry, almost never.
Okay. All right. Last question. I'm irritated a great deal, more than people are aware of.
Almost always.
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. I know that was a lot of numbers and questions, so we appreciate it.
Welcome.